Good morning, everybody. This is LuAnn from EveryStem. I'm so happy to have you here. And I am here with Rachel of the Botanic Business Hub. And she is a virtual assistant specifically for floral designers. And she also handles a lot of admin, social media, and all kinds of amazing things for florists because she has a background in floristry, wholesaler business, and lots of other things in the floral industry. And so she is a great person today to talk with about the art of delegation. And we want to talk to you today about a few different things related to delegating, why it's so important, some of the signs of actually when you need to start delegating, and a little bit about how to go through the process of delegating, why it's so helpful, no matter whether you're a solo entrepreneur, a person who's running a small studio, a mother, someone in the community. We all need to delegate on some level. We cannot do everything ourselves. And Rachel is very familiar with that. She understands that process. And so I want to welcome her today as our guest speaker. Thanks for being here with us, Rachel.
Oh, it's amazing. It feels like it's been quite a long time coming because we've had it in the diary for months, isn't it? But it's such a great topic. And I think it's something that everyone can resonate with, and it's definitely not talked about enough within our industry. So it's great to sort of highlight it a little bit more.
And I think with your background being so diverse, that you've worked in floral shops, you've worked with wedding studios, you've been on the wholesale end of buying and ordering flowers. You have such a great grasp of the floral industry at large that when your clients come to you to become a client as with your virtual business, doing admin work, doing social media marketing, doing email marketing for them, even doing some of their flower ordering, planning out weddings and events and production timelines, you do all of those things with different clients. And they always seem to say that you just jump right in and you know exactly kind of what they need when they need it. So when we were talking about doing this topic, I got really excited because you can really speak to this from quite a few different angles, which I think is amazing.
Oh, definitely. I've definitely always been one of those that has taken the path less trodden within the floral industry. I've always stretched my floral fingers in different directions and had a real keen interest in growing my skills. So it's never been about just being a florist. It's about expanding and challenging myself so that I'm always learning and growing and all that sort of thing. I've absolutely loved my journey throughout, and I'm always encouraging others to sort of step outside the box a little bit as well. So
Definitely. I think that's really just amazing because when you're trying to change something, I read something recently that said things change around you when things change inside you. And it's kind of, a truth. It has to start within us. We have to kind of have the motivation to want to begin to make a change. And so feeling that with delegation, I know you mentioned to me that you have seen with the florists that you work with, as a freelancer, as a virtual administrator, helping them with all their business tasks, and recognize those signs of feeling overwhelmed really well. You can kind of pinpoint them from a mile away. So
yeah.
let's start there. Let's talk about some of the signs of when you start to realize that you need to delegate and what those signs are, because a lot of times we're just feeling overwhelmed and we're just running through the day to day and we can't even really recognize it because we're barely able to just keep up, let alone think about how to get ahead of that and what that would take. So let's start there.
Yeah, I think as your recent social media post said, it's the juggle and the expectation that you are this amazing superwoman that can, keep all the balls up in the air. And that that is all well and good, but we are not superhuman. We are human, and we can only have so much on our plate at any given time. And I know a lot of my clients generally feel that they're like in this state of chaos, they're on this like never-ending roller coaster ride with dips and turns and twists, and they can't get in front of anything to feel in control. Like they're forever fighting fires to try and just sort of keep on top of stuff, and they're not necessarily growing their businesses because they're just fighting fires all the time. So I think that's where sometimes you then sort of need to kind of take a deep breath and stop and think about where you actually want your business to go, and whether you're okay with where you are, or whether you know that there are a lot of possibilities that you want to explore within your business in different areas, whatever that might be. And not only like on the physical side of feeling tired, but also the mental side of like lack of sleep, or nightmares about weddings waking you up constantly, that you've forgotten to order flowers, or you've got to replace flowers, or whatever it might be, on top of like your normal work family life, and everything like that. So I think there comes a time where you're like, you just got to stop, you've got to take a deep breath, and you've got to own the fact that you can only do so much and ask for help. That's the biggie. It's that taking the leap of faith to ask someone for help.
That's right. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think from my perspective, being a business owner for over 12 years of my own flower shop, that acknowledging the fact that you have this situation and that you've kind of put yourself in this situation can be a little bit hard to handle on the front end, right? So just understanding that, okay, I chose this, I've put myself in this situation, and now I have to figure out how to get back out of it, and just acknowledging. I think sometimes it's hard. People want, they want to own a business and they want that freedom. And then sometimes that freedom, actually owning a business, is not really freeing. It almost starts to close in on you and feel like you're trapping yourself into a box, as opposed to opening up, lots of freedom. So I think kind of being able to see, if you can't really keep up with your email, if you can't really keep up with the influx of inquiries, if you can't sleep at night, like you said, if you're stressed about events, whatever it is, I think it's important to see those things first, to spend a little bit of time really acknowledging, okay, what is it that really stresses me out? What are the things that I'm not able to do? And then, to a point that we had discussed about a little bit before the call, is that you had made, is just because I need to do it, should I be the one to do it? Just because it has to get done, is it something that I want to do? Is it something that I enjoy doing? So taking those steps to really first acknowledge, that we're in a situation where we need to delegate, and then kind of acknowledging what are the things that are really causing the stress in my life, it can be helpful to kind of start to pick away at some of those things. So I think acknowledging that, feeling that guilt of saying, I should be able to do it all. Like, we think that, right? We think we should be Superwoman. We think we should be able to do everything. And no person can do it alone. A lot of us are, we have family, we're caretakers, we have children, or we have, other things in our lives that we need to be involved in. And it's not just the business. We have all these other things pulling at us in different directions.
There's also like the client or customer expectation that because it's your business, you do everything. So you then have that weight on your shoulders that, they think that, so you should be doing that. But in actual fact, your business is a different entirety to you. Like, you are not your business and your business is not you. There is a separation between the two of it. And you are completely within your rights to take the credit for it. Like, you have put so much energy into your business to build it up. You brought the team together in order to, fulfill this client's expectations, but you don't have to do everything. You can pass some tasks on free you up to do what you actually love doing within the business. And I know for some florists that is actually doing the paperwork side, and they don't necessarily like creating. And for other people, it's all about the creating and ordering the right flowers and the tones, and actually putting the designs together, and they absolutely bloody hate all the paperwork side. So I think sometimes you have to really think about what you enjoy within your business, and what you actually, what brings you joy, what area of the business is it that actually you want to be doing.
Definitely. And I think that as a business owner, and my experience as a freelancer for the last several years, and my experience as a business owner for the previous 12 years before that, kind of being able to see both sides, I think it's a really, really important to acknowledge that as a business owner, we really do set the tone for the experience within our business. Now, everyone has to take responsibility. Whoever's working, whether it's freelancers just coming in to help for a weekend, whether it's just family and friends who are helpers, who are coming in to help on a wedding setup day, or whether it's full-time employees and you have a really big team of 15 or 20 people, there is that mentality of everyone needs to take responsibility and do their work and be responsible and do it all. But if the delegation from the top does not come down to kind of the right, come down with the right mentality, with the right attitude, if you're miserable as the business owner, everyone else senses that. It trickles down. So if you're happier doing certain things, and you can really bring that joy to the business, and then you can delegate the tasks that you don't love to other people, it just elevates the entire experience. And I know you've felt that as a freelancer and as an employee of different businesses. So I'd love to hear about your perspective on that, because I think we've all come into a room where, the business owner isn't organized. There's a huge wedding or a huge event, or we're trying to make a million arrangements for Mother's Day, and it's chaos. And it's easy to feel that stress, and everybody just tightens up, and it just becomes a totally unenjoyable experience. We can really affect that by being, acknowledge the situation, kind of figuring out what it is that we love, and then really working towards trying to make that something that other people can fill in those gaps. But I'd love to hear what you think about that, because I know you've seen that and experienced it, and you kind of have a strong view on that.
Yeah, I think when you get to those situations as a freelancer, you can kind of feel whoever you're working for become like this massive ostrich, and they put their head in the sand, and you can't really get any answers from them. And at that point, you're in the lap of the gods as to what team you have around you, as to what their experience is and what their personalities are like, as to how they get you out of that situation. Like that, having the right team around you is so crucial, no matter whether it's the people that are working for you freelancer wise, or in office, or VAs, or anything. Like, who you have around you, basically, I personally think, then dictates how the rest of it goes. And when you need that support team, when you're like, shit, I'm really up against this, which way do I turn? It is those people that support you and go, I got your back, that really do actually make it. And I think that I've seen a massive difference in some of my clients, where I've gone in to do the planning way before the events, and literally logging absolutely everything that needs doing for that event, from doing the rotas, doing the timings for the day, organising the stem counts, making lists of sundries that they need to pull, making to-do lists of what they can actually achieve before the week of the event. So whether that's like making little star ones, or ordering new urns, or ordering the sundries, or whatever it might be. that pre-event um coordination and planning takes an awful lot of thought process, and I think it's something that we don't necessarily give an awful lot of headspace for, because we're so used to doing it that we tend to think we can get ourselves out of a hole if we need to, but there's no point. Like, we don't need to do that. If we could just get a little bit more organized way in advance. I mean, some of the weddings that we come in, we know 2 years in advance what we've got. So there really is no reason that we should be so up against it on the week of a wedding. I know I totally get that there are some things that are completely out of our control, but there's a lot that you can plan and organize way before an event, with to-do lists and all that sort of thing. And there's a lot of that you can delegate out, like you said, to people who actually enjoy doing those things, and want to take on those roles.
Exactly. I totally agree with that. And I think that systems can help with that too. I recently had EveryStem member who reached out to me, and we were chatting, and she has a very new business. And she's got some health issues that she's going through. And she said, LuAnn, I'm so glad that I joined EveryStem, because now, through this period of my issues with my health, I'm a new business owner. I'm still learning, but I have this system that is organizing everything. And the people who are going to help me and work around me can use this as an advantage to be able to say, okay, we're going to use this system, and we're going to follow these guidelines, and we're going to use these lists, and we're going to use these recipes, and we're going to use these timelines that are all added into EveryStem. So that way it can be something that the team can work towards. She doesn't necessarily have to be the person who is there on the day, there during the week. She can lead it, she can set it in motion, and then the people who know what they need to do can do that work. So it's not only the right people, it's the right systems combined with the right people. And so I think that's really important, because no matter how you do your lists, how you do your recipes, how you plan your preparation, how you staff your team, however you do that, the key is doing it in advance and having a system that empowers you to make sure that everybody's on the same page. Because even if we're solo business owner, and most of the weddings we do are all by ourselves, when we have to hire someone to come and help us, that can be a real issue with delegation, because we're used to doing everything in our head. And we don't share the right information. We don't share a lot because we're like, oh, it's in my head. I know it. I know it. And that's all that matters. But even as a person who's working mostly alone, there are going to be times where you need to share that information. So if you get in the habit of having it in a format, using a system that's shareable, using something that really makes clean sense to someone else, then it can be very easy to kind of grow, set that delegation in motion, and kind of have something to work towards. So when I see newer designers that start using a virtual assistant, or that start using a system like EveryStem, it gets me really excited, because a lot of our members are experienced. They've been through this pain. They know how horrible it can be when they're not organized and they don't have things in a format that works. They've been through that struggle where I ordered all these flowers, but I have no idea what to do with them. I have no idea how long it's going to take me to get this done. And I didn't really execute the way I had hoped. And yeah, my client maybe was okay with it, but it caused a lot of chaos for everybody. And it's just more stressful than it needs to be. Being a florist is not an easy job to begin with. We have a lot of pressure. So the timeline, the stress, the fact that it's perishable product, all that is something that we have to work with. That adds that level of stress already. Then on top of that, if we're not organized, we're not really prepared, that just adds that unnecessary, avoidable stress.
There are a lot of different hats that business owners need to wear. It's not just that you're a florist owner, it is that you are a bucket cleaner, a delivery driver, an orderer, You put all your credits in, you need to manage your team, you need to do your STEM counts, you need to liaise with the wedding planner, the bride, the groom, the groom's mother, and there is on top of all the other business tasks like doing your marketing and doing all your paperwork for it and stuff like that. Like there is so much that is on your shoulders, and that is when you start feeling that you're fighting that change within your role. Like, if you think about coming up from the bottom up, we do all the some of it nice, some of it not so nice. And then as you go up your business and you become a business owner, your role changes and you go from what you really love doing to maybe possibly something that you don't love doing. And you really fight that transition within your business where it's needing you to do a different role and wear multiple different hats, and you just don't want to do it. And that is where your delegation really comes in, because when you find the right people to support you with the tasks that your business needs you for, but you don't necessarily need to do, that is where the gold is within your business to push it forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think finding the right combination of what it needs to be for support, and so that doesn't necessarily mean you have to hire a full-time employee. There are so many amazing different ways we can work now. I've even seen, companies that will offer to do your proposals for you. There's companies that will do all kinds of things for you, and so outsourcing those things, not necessarily having to hire someone within your own organization to do that, is totally fine. And I think experimenting is really important too, because we all are afraid to take that leap, to trust someone else with the work, because what if they don't do it the way we do it? Well, what if they don't do it as good as we do it? And yeah, that's quite possible, right? We know that that's a possibility. But what if they do it better than we do? What if they really love it and they're really great at it? And we don't want to be doing that. So, it's super important to kind of look at that from a couple different perspectives. And one of the perspectives I've heard that I think is really useful for me is to look at it from an abundance mindset, to say there is an abundance of skilled professional people out in the world that would love to help me run my business. Like, isn't that awesome? Just thinking about that. I have an unlimited amount of human resource that I could tap into. People from the UK, that I'm in Austin, Texas, and Rachel's in, the UK. We talk all the time. We don't need to be in the same town. We don't need to be in the same building, and we can definitely do a lot of different things that are available to us now that weren't available to us in the past. So having a mindset of saying, I'm just going to try this. And yeah, maybe it might not work out. And if that isn't the right fit, that's okay. You can move on to the next thing, try something different. But business is a series of experiments. And if we're not willing to try those experiments, we can just kind of stay stuck in that same cycle of vicious, I'm miserable, I'm stressed out, I'm overworked. And then what that turns into, for me, what it turned into in my past is resentment. And I did not like feeling that way. I didn't like feeling stuck in my business, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. And I didn't like feeling resentful towards people that worked for me, towards people that were buying my products and my services, towards, my family and all kinds of things. Like, it's a feeling that kind of bottles up and then it kind of like bubbles over. So that's why we're talking about this today, because I think it's such an important topic, because we really can tend to hold it all inside. And if we look at it as an abundance of opportunity, that we can try different things, that we can hire different people, that we can try different systems and solutions to see what works for us, that really can change your whole mindset when you say, I can really start to make a change here. And it doesn't have to be wholesale I'm just going to change everything. Try one thing at a time. So I think that leads us into kind of understanding the sign. We've talked about the signs of where we are when we need to delegate, but let's talk about how we can recognize what are the things that we need to delegate. Like, do you have some recommendations for, other florists that you work with, or, in general, like, how can they see what it is they need to delegate? What's that process look like?
So some of my clients, when they first started off, would send me a very long message that included everything under the sun that they wanted, that they had possibly, it was like a big brain dump, basically, of
I love that.
It was like it had been stored up for donkey's years, and then they suddenly gone, I need to get all this done. So with clients like that, I generally I sit down and I have a really honest conversation, and I have this thing where you can hear somebody, but when you really listen to somebody, you can pinpoint the exact things. So you then kind of put things into a chronological list as to what needs to come first, what's the most important thing. And I think sometimes brain dumping is the most fantastic thing to do, because it just gives you the space to offload everything. It's not just one thing, it's everything that you have been wishing and hoping for and dreaming of, and that you need to do. And you've been an ostrich and you've put your head in the sand and you're still on the roller coaster, but sometimes you just need to get rid of it all. And even having a chat with another friend and just saying, right, I need an hour to talk about my business, and I want to talk about what I really hate and what has I've really, really loved in the last year. If you could have two weddings, if you could do two weddings again, two events or two client orders again, what would they be? Why would that be? And sort of work through it a little bit more, that sort of process as to, what is it that you're not enjoying within your business. And yeah, so I'd probably say the majority of my clients do a bit of a brain dump. And some of them know exactly what it is. And then we do this whole U-turn halfway through and go in a completely different direction. So I think everyone's journey within their own business is completely different. But I'd highly recommend just sitting down with pen and paper or having a chat with a friend, and just working through all those issues and hopes, dreams, problems that you've been thinking of and sort of holding inside your heart because you don't want to let it out. It's really important, I think.
That's great. And I think also acknowledging outside of the business too, don't be afraid to put those things on, because we are small business owners. And as such, we kind of, our lives and our businesses tend to blend a lot. And, as much as we talk about having a well-balanced life and alleviating stress and all that kind of stuff, it's there. We're not going to just get rid of our stress 100%. And so if there are things that come up while you're thinking about what it is that you love and hate and what's going on in your life, if it's family things, if it's lifestyle things, if it's, whatever it is, those things can kind of play a role in that too. So don't be afraid to kind of add that in. And once you've got that kind of sense and that brain dump just comes out and you're, sitting there going, okay, this is a long list of things that I am feeling really overwhelmed about. How do I prioritize that? I think it's important to think about, what's going to move the needle the most? What's really the thing that's either causing you the most pain or limiting your business the most, and kind of, maybe picking the top 2 or 3 of those things and just working through them one at a time. That's how I tend to do it. I think that's an important thing, because otherwise we feel like, that analysis paralysis. We have all these things that are coming at us and we feel overwhelmed about. But how do you recommend to your clients and your florist friends, how do you recommend to them to kind of take that brain dump and then whittle it down into something that's tangible for them to actually action on?
Well, that's where I sort of come in. When we have that one-to-one meeting, it's where we sort of whittle it all down and put it all into order. And sometimes it's not necessarily what they think they want to start with, but where I can see the most value will come from. So it might be something as simple as going into their inbox and sorting it. And deleting all those junk emails. I've recently done one where she had over 1,000 unread emails in her inbox.
Oh, that hurts me just to hear that. It's so painful. That would cause a lot of stress for me too, for sure. That's 1,000 emails is like,
yeah, and they weren't even, some of them weren't even, well, a lot of them weren't even client ones, but
junk, yeah, just junk stuff that you could delete. Yeah.
Yeah, and organizing it all. So putting folders in for 2023 inquiries, 24 inquiries, 25 inquiries, 2026 inquiries. Invoices go here, this goes here, and then segregating all of those emails. So actually when you go into your inbox, you're like, oh wow, actually I can hit the ground running, and I'm not thinking about those 1,000 emails that I haven't opened because I don't want to think about them. Actually, it's all there in black and white, and now I know exactly what I should be doing, and I'm not going to get distracted or feel guilty that I haven't done something within my business. So there are some where the value of the task that I'm doing is more to do mentally with what is going on in their lives. And some of it is organization, feeling that they've got that weight off their shoulders in organizing different bits and pieces and planning and prepping, or not having the time to put floral orders in and to find the best value product, which obviously is where my wholesale comes into. So I can automatically see which is the best value for money between this hydrangea and that hydrangea, with the head size, the stem length, knowing the growers, as to which one we should go for. And it's super quick and super easy for me to sort of dip in and use my own expertise with those sorts of areas. So yeah, I think having someone to bounce your ideas off of where you want to start with your delegating is quite key, especially if they are fantastic listeners and not there to be a parrot. Nobody wants someone to tell them the wrong thing because they think it's the right thing to say. You need someone who's going to be a little bit more judgmental and precise with where those areas are and which one is the priority that actually needs to start with. So yeah, that's how I do it with my clients.
I love that. I think leveraging other people's strengths is really important too. And I know you're basically saying that. You're saying that if you're working with someone else and you're looking to delegate, it's not always about just you. It's about that other person. What is that person's strengths? What are they good at? They might not be great at the one thing that causes you the most pain, but if they can take 2 or 3 other things off your plate, then that thing that causes you so much pain, because those other things are off your plate, maybe won't be so horrible. You'll have a little more time for it. You'll be able to focus on it. Maybe it's just kind of all the things being lumped into one that's causing a lot of the problem. And then you can work on saying, okay, this other person, this is their strengths. I'm going to leverage their strengths. It's not my number one priority or the thing that I really don't like the most. But by doing that, those are off my plate. Then that can open me up to either delegate this task to someone else who maybe is better suited for it, or to figure out a better system that I can use to do that project or to do that part of my job. And I think the repetitive tasks can be one of the main things that are the easiest things to delegate. And sometimes it can be important to work from that perspective. Like, what are the things that I'm doing on a regular basis that I can easily delegate to someone else, that then opens me up for more of the things that are really stressing me out or that are difficult, that I can then work through a system that can make it better. So, I've had so many people who join EveryStem and they say, I really don't like pricing and ordering flowers and figuring out recipes. And I've realized, in all honesty, that the reason they don't like that is because it's time consuming and they don't give it the time it needs.
And
Figuring
they
out,
don't necessarily have the skills to do it.
right.
Like, I know there's definitely things that I am not good at, and I steer clear of them, and I can recommend loads of other people to do them. And that is part of where your strength comes from, is knowing when you know there's a system out there, or you can do something differently. And sometimes you can do it yourself if you've got the time to sort of sit down and learn how to do it, and other times you do need to ask for help and get support from someone that could be your clone, or
Yep.
that can take it off your plate and give it back to you when you need it. It's really important to know whether you've got the skill set, whether you can learn it quick enough and eloquently enough, or whether you actually need outside help from somewhere.
Right. That acknowledgement and kind of being okay with that, letting that sit with you and saying, I'm okay with the fact that this is not my strong suit. I don't enjoy going on Instagram or social media because I have a lot of issues with comparing myself with other people. If that's you, that's okay. You're not alone. We all have that feeling. Some of us, can kind of tend to be like, all right, I acknowledge that. I know that's there. Some days it's worse than others, but I'm still going to get on Instagram. I'm still going to post my stuff because I want that awareness. I want to get my business well known and I want to put it out there. But for other people, it can be really a crippling thing. It's just dependent on how you feel about it. And it can change, right? There are some times where we feel great about it, sometimes where we don't. And that's one of the things that you can send off to someone else, let them run it, not worry about it, and kind of have that stress lifted off your shoulders. Same thing with other aspects of the business. If you're the kind of person who really wants to be able to have a little bit more freedom in your business and feel like you can be more flexible, then I think it's really important to kind of find a good network of people who can support you. That way you're not kind of dependent on every little aspect of it. And so that takes that work, that effort on the front end is really worthwhile once you get to the point where you've got some people in place and, they're going to come and go, so that, I know a lot of people have that stress of like, well, what if this person leaves? That's why the system comes into place, because then when you have a good system and you need to introduce someone new into this fold, whether it's a full-time employee, a virtual admin, somebody who just comes in once in a while to help you out, whether it's design and production and setup based, or whether it's actually business admin and client facing based, accounting, whatever it is, if you have a really good system, it's so much easier to implement a person into that system who is skilled at it. They'll figure it out a lot quicker if there's something to work from that's really organized. So once they get to a point where your clients are kind of working with you, you're kind of doing some of this, what are the benefits? What are some of the things that your clients tell you they feel after, a few months or a certain period of time of working with you? And the ones who gave you that brain dump at the beginning, where does, the fact that they've delegated some of their work take them?
Relief. I think a lot of it is relief. And I get a lot of text messages going, oh my god, I love it, you're a genius. Because I see them, I see their business so clearly. I know their ideal target client. Their work is just so beautifully edited, with the photos that they get back from their weddings and events, that you can seamlessly bring it together so that you're not only um, putting their business first, but you're putting them first, and also on the same level, you're putting their target client. Like, you, from my point of view, I absolutely love bringing those three things together in a really cohesive way. No matter whether I'm doing email marketing, I'm doing a new website page for somebody, whether I'm thinking of a customer journey, so thinking of like gifts that you can send out to enhance that customer experience, or doing someone's flower order for them. Putting those three things together on the same level is really, really important. And sometimes you need somebody outside of the business with that doesn't have any blinkers or favoritism or anything like that, or history with a company, to sort of bring those three things together. So yeah, definitely relief, and gratitude is quite a big one, that they then don't have to do that task themselves. Like, thank God I don't have to do a whole website page and work it out. Yeah, it's amazing to see the customer journey and how appreciative they are when they feel that they are starting to get ahead of things, rather than constantly trying to catch up.
Yeah, I think that's the ultimate goal, right? To feel that relief and to say, okay, I'm at this point now where I can open myself up to other things. And, finding team members that can help you in different aspects of your business. They don't have to be floral designers. They don't have to have a floral background. Obviously, that can be very beneficial, especially when you're thinking about, things like what Rachel can do for her clients, running production timelines, using EveryStem to build recipes and order flowers, doing, sundries lists, and kind of, helping even order some of those things. Those are things that somebody who is a florist is obviously going to be better at. Those are very floral related tasks. But then other tasks are, you can really look outside the box. I've heard a lot of people say, well, I have to just hire more floral designers. I just need more florists in the house. And there are restaurants that run with a couple of chefs, and then they have a whole team of people that are called the front of house, right? And none of those people know how to cook. Maybe they know how to cook, but they're not cooking, right? They are people who are running the reservations, the client experience, the logistics, the, all that kind of stuff. They are doing that. So if you, are running a retail business, I know we've been talking a lot about kind of events and wedding related things, but, for EveryStem, we have a lot of retail florists in our membership as well. If you're a retail florist, you do not have to hire a florist to be the customer service lead in your business. If you do not want to be answering the phone and dealing with the online orders and all that kind of stuff, you can hire someone who is not necessarily a floral designer to run the front of the house in your flower business, just like they would run the front of the house in a restaurant business. And if you're an event designer and you do mostly, weddings and events, and you're in a studio, the thought about, hiring someone who can engage with your clients, I do think in that regard, you need somebody who has some floral experience, who you can kind of train and teach, because you're going to be doing a little bit more of a customized, kind of situation where people are wanting things. But if you've got an a la carte offering on your website, if you've got some basic pricing structure, if you use EveryStem to build out some of your standardized pricing for your ceremony, your bouquets, your receptions, you can train someone to be that person who does a lot of that initial relationship. Then when the people are engaged and ready to meet, ready to book, then you can take it on. So, we don't have to necessarily give someone the entire run of it. You can have someone who does the beginning of your flower orders in EveryStem, build some basic recipes, and then you can go in and just tweak it and finish it. You can have someone that builds, your website for you, the bulk of it, and then you can say, okay, I just want to make these few changes because I feel like this is what I personally want. So when you give something away, it's really important to just recognize that you need to let that person do their job. Feedback can always be a thing. We could talk about that next. And kind of micromanaging people can be an issue with delegation as well. But really knowing that you can let that person do their thing and then you can kind of tweak it at the end. Don't feel like you're giving away the precious thing. It can be a lot less stressful than that if you just say, it's just one little thing. It's one client, it's one website page, one landing page. Like, it's not the end of the world. It's not going to make or break the business. And kind of having a little bit less, maybe importance on, oh, it's going to be the end of the world if this one client doesn't book or something like that.
Yeah. You can set deadlines as well, or time allocation. So, I mean, if I look back at when I was a younger florist, I would probably have said I was very controlling, like I wanted to do everything. And I think it was only when I went into wholesale that I learned that I had to let go of some of that, and I had to trust other people to do what their jobs were. And but a lot of my clients will come to me and go, right, I'm going to book you for 10 hours, and within those 10 hours we'll come up with a plan of what I'm actually going to execute for them, and I'll keep them updated all the way through, as now we're halfway through and we've done this X, Y, and Z, and we might need a little bit more time, or actually I'll get it done quicker, or we've got a launch coming up in a month and a half and we need all of the web shop products uploaded, and I need it done by this date. Because as you then set those deadlines, actually you can check in with them and go, if you are feeling a little bit out of control, you can check in and say, how's it going, or do you need anything else from me, or can I take a little sneaky peek, or whatever it is. So that delegating is a really difficult thing when you don't feel like you're in control, and sometimes you need to put in place some things where you can set expectations and you can feel like you can rein it back in if it's not going in the direction that you need. So I definitely say, yeah, deadlines or setting hours is a really good way to go to sort of start yourself off within a certain journey down a certain path for delegating.
Absolutely. And as a freelancer myself, for many florists that I work with, I have seen a wide range of different, management styles. And I think that it's really important to kind of set parameters and manage expectations, because you could come into a flower shop as a freelancer and have the experience of, the business owner saying, okay, I got you for the next 3 days. Here's kind of an outline of what we expect to do each day. And on the last day, we're going to be setting up this event, and we're going to be needing you to bring your own lunch, but we're going to provide snacks, and we're going to need you to be here at this time, and we're going to work until this time. And that just sets the person who's doing the freelance up for the right mindset. I know what I'm expected to do. I understand I have certain amounts of things I need to get done every day. And it can really, that preparation, like you were talking about early, can really set up an entire team for success, because each individual person is aware of their role. And yes, things change. You might be told you're going to make 6 giant overheads on Friday, but then when Friday actually comes, those flowers didn't come in yet. So we're going to have you do this instead until we make those on site, because we're not going to have our flowers till Saturday. Whatever it is, we have to be flexible. But we have that expectation. Now, if you come into a shop and you're like, okay, what are we going to do? And they say, oh, here, make these 6 bouquets. And then the business owner kind of walks away, and the other people who are doing their things are kind of doing their own thing. And I have literally seen people who have taken hours and hours and hours to make 6 bouquets. Why is that? Because there were no parameters set. There were no expectations set. And then the person leaves and they spent all day making 6 bouquets. We've all seen this. We all know it. And then the person who's in charge is like, man, that was really disappointing. That person did not do a lot of work today. But during that day, there was no communication. There were no expectations set. There were no, hey, after these 6 bouquets, I need you to make 6 of these things. There was none of that. So communication obviously is a huge key. And like you said, kind of setting that tone and saying, okay, whether it's a project that needs to be done on the admin side, we're building a new a la carte menu and I want it to be ready for the fall or the spring season. And I need all these photos uploaded to the website and I need copy for the website. And I want to launch this a la carte offering on September 1st because I want to capture all these kind of last minute clients that just need a couple of items. Setting that parameter and kind of breaking it down, that's the direction of your business. And that's one thing that really can't be delegated. That's something, setting the tone for your business, setting the direction of your business, and really being the lead. Unfortunately, that has to come from the business owner. And, getting a partner, if you don't love doing that, maybe a partner is the kind of person you need to delegate to. You can have multiple owners of a business. You can have another person who's maybe the shop manager or another high-level leader, if that's not something you love to do. But it has to come from that kind of setting that tone. And it can be hard to a lot of people feel like that's confrontational and people don't like conflict, having to say to someone, okay, I need you to make 7 of these. And I really want it to be done in the next 2 hours or 3 hours, and understanding how long that should take someone and kind of tracking some of that. So I went on and on about that. But I think the point there is really being able to kind of have that preparation on the front end to kind of be able to say, this is how I want my team to kind of, work through this entire process. Thinking through that on the front end, obviously, and communicating well is a huge part of it. And the stress of that can be a lot in itself. So finding someone who can help you with that and work through that, someone who is an admin who's experienced with timelines and can kind of handle some of that stuff can be really valuable. So what would you say about that, Rachel? Where did that take you?
Well, as I said before, I think the team that you have around you is really important, and finding the right team and letting people go that aren't the right fit will do wonders for your business. Whether you are looking for someone to jump in and do some admin, or whether you're looking for a part-time freelancer or a full-time member of staff, whoever it is, it's got to be the right fit for you in the business. And don't be afraid to know when it's wrong and to stop that relationship. And I've done it with my clients when I've just felt that the communication is not there, and that is a real biggie for me. I love customer service. I love my clients. I'm really invested in them as a person, their business, their journey. I know what's going on in their lives. I know when they need extra support. And that's really important from my point of view. Whereas, another business owner might just want someone to come in, do the work and go home again. And they don't want that extra support. So it's really crucial that you find the right people for your business. You might not find them on the first or the second try. You might find them on the 5th or the 6th try. But keep looking, because there will be someone who's the right person for your business that you will end up being like so in tune with each other that sometimes you don't need to talk to them in order for you to say what you mean. A lot of my clients, I can feel it in their voices when there's something wrong, or when I go out and freelance and I know something's not quite right, or they're not quite happy with it, or in their mind they're thinking, I need the ribbon, and I can see there's a question on it, and I'm like, here's the ribbon. Here you are. This is what you're after. You need someone that is going to work in harmony with you, that isn't going to fight you, and that is going to champion your business and to help it grow. That's really important. You'll find that when you find those right people, that the work and the day will always go smoother, and you'll feel less stressed and more organized. and your heart will always feel more full with what you're doing. So yeah, I'd say team is vitally important to try and find the right people and the right fit for your business.
Yes, definitely. And I think too that it's important to understand that, you know, I've seen other business owners who will just kind of throw more people at a problem. And that's not always the right solution either. So kind of, you know, finding that balance between, you know, I have a large wedding, I'm just going to hire an army of people, but I'm not going to be really prepared. And the theory there is if we have enough people, we can fix any problem that arises. And I've seen that with a lot of businesses. And unfortunately, that doesn't necessarily work, because when you're up against a short timeline and you just have a ton of people, if there's no system and no organization and no hierarchy, and those people don't know what they need to be doing, what ends up happening is a lot of people just kind of stand around. So that's an important thing too. Make sure that, you know, when you're looking at kind of hiring and outsourcing and you know, have a plan, have an intention. And then once that person picks up and frees you from whatever it is that you were doing before, kind of, it's important to know what you're going to be doing with that time next. What do I want to be filling my time with? You know, do I want to be doing more design? Do I want to be doing more, you know, selling to new clients? Do I want to be expanding my business into a new, you know, avenue? Or do I want some free time, you know, to be doing something that I enjoy doing that's not business related? But knowing that and understanding that it's not always just hiring more people is not always that solution. And then being able to give that feedback and constructively say to someone, you know, it's not about scolding them or telling them they've done something wrong. It's about making sure that they have the tools and the information that they need to be able to get their job done. And, you know, working through that with a different personality, you know, can be challenging. So, you know, trying to demonstrate things in different ways can be really good. And one of the things that I did learn from another small business owner who I was in a coaching program with, she actually told me that whenever she's doing a task that she's going to hand off to another person, that she will record herself doing that task, and then she will send it to that person. And then she will say, okay, let's do it together the first time, or however you want to. Here's the instructions on how to do it. And here's a video of me doing it. And then that way, when it's their turn to do it and she's handing it off, she has a very strong sense of the fact that not only do they have the instructions and they've gone through it with her, but they also have a video of her having done it. So if it's a task that you're doing over and over again, that is a really great way to kind of communicate on the front end. These are the steps of how to get this done, and this is how I do it. And then if they find a better way or a faster way or a different way to do it, as long as it's done, you know, I think it's like a 70% rule. As long as the job is done to a 70%, you know, standard, then let it go. And so I think that's really important too, because a lot of us are perfectionists and we really want everything to be perfect. And we don't want to put things out in the world until they're 110% polished. And as someone who has released a software to the world as a minimum viable product and has been continually improving it and getting feedback from people, believe me, I understand. There's lots of things that, you know, we all want things to be perfect when we put them out there, but it's just not possible. We have to keep improving on things. And I want to give some time to anybody who has questions. Jerry Lynn, Gina, Rebecca, if you guys have any questions while you're on here, pop them in the chat, or you can unmute and ask Rachel any questions that you've thought of while we're chatting. Anything that you want to talk about in your business that I know Jerry Lynn's business is growing. I know Rebecca's working through a lot of different things, and Gina and Rachel are going to be doing things together. So I'm really excited about kind of sharing this with all our other members too, because I think we're all facing this. So Rachel, what else did you want to mention about this as we see if there's any questions in the chat that pop up, or if anybody unmutes and has a question?
I think one of the missed opportunities with delegating is actually to make use of the reps that you are in touch with within the industry, especially like on the wholesale side. Like, there is this opportunity, especially with EveryStem, where you can download your stem counts to pass those over and get them to do the work. Like, they are paid within that business to make sure that you are looked after and you're getting what you need. And I think sometimes, because we are wanting to make sure that we know everything is okay, we don't utilize them as much as we could. Like, really test them. If you need a hydrangea, and I don't know what your prices over in the US for, but our hydrangeas over here are between like 165 and £4.50. So if you're needing a white hydrangea for £1.75 within a specific head size, then pass that over to them and make them do the work and make them source it, because that's what they're here for at the end of the day. I definitely don't think, especially over in the UK here, that florists use their reps enough. They don't get their money's worth out of the wholesale companies enough.
I love that. I seriously love that. And I think that that's really important. I've tried to promote within our EveryStem membership and on my Instagram and things, social media, to say, really get to know your wholesaler. And a lot of times when I talk to floral designers, they're like, well, I just have to order this and send it and hope, and it's like, but what if you sent them an email saying, hey, this is what I'm looking for. This is the price that I want to pay. Can you get this for me? And if not, what else can you get for me in this price? Why do I have to pay so much more for something just because it's easy for them to get that item, right? We are their client and they should be working to get us what we need. And we have to be realistic. Obviously, we're not going to get a hydrangea for 25 cents, but finding the right product.
Dream, surely.
Say that again.
One can hope and dream, surely.
You never know, right? But I know when I had my flower business and I was the owner, my wholesaler, my local wholesaler, I shouldn't give them up, Austin Flower Company, they're the best. But I built a relationship with them because my flower shop was down the street from them. And I was able to walk there on a daily basis and do all my daily orders kind of as a just in time inventory. I know I'm spoiled. Believe me, I know having a wholesaler on the same street is, not something that everyone has access to. But, the fact that I would say to them, so this other wholesaler can get me the hydrangea for $1.25 if I buy 500 stems. Can you get it for me for that price or less? And they would say, well, LuAnn, of course, we'll match that price for you. Are you doing that with your wholesalers? They are competing for your business. Give it a try. It can't hurt, right? Or are you going to hire an admin to help you with some of that? Because the difference between a $3 hydrangea and a $2.50 hydrangea can be profit in your pocket. It can be more product for the client. It can be a lot of different things. It can be whatever you want it to be, but you have to put that effort in on the front end. And so building in a system into your business that works well, like EveryStem or whatever system you want to use, and then being able to leverage that system and say, I'm going to send these, I could get my order. I know Jerry Lynn she has those orders by vendor printed out and she sends them over to her wholesalers. And, it's really important for us to be able to build that, even if we're not the most assertive, aggressive kind of natural personality, we can do that in our own way. We can say, I'm running this business. I want to get the best prices for my clients. I want to get the best product for my clients. And I want my reps who are responsible for that to really be advocates for that for me. And so that's something, managing those expectations, setting up those parameters is, really valuable. And let's see, Jerry Lynn just said she doesn't have any questions, and this has been great. She's going to piggyback off the great comments about freelancer time management. And we have been talking about labor time in EveryStem. Jerry Lynn and I have talked about some different ideas on how you can kind of allocate that within EveryStem. And one of the ways we talked about doing that, and Rebecca's kind of done this a little bit too. I know Rebecca's on here. Thinking about how you want to let your freelancers know how much time it takes, you expect them to take per design, you can actually put in an item in EveryStem, like you would put a flower or a hard good, and you could put in time for design or freelancer time. And you can put in an allotment, put in 0.5 of an hour or 0.25 of an hour, and that will show up on the recipe. And you can say, okay, you'll see at the bottom, it says, freelancer time. And you know that I want this design to take you about half an hour to make. And then that way, your team is kind of, that expectation is built into the recipe. I think that's a great idea. I'm so glad Jerry Lynn mentioned it.
Even on the admin side, if you're getting someone else to do your stem counts, to do your proposals, to book them in for consultations, having that as a separate line within your EveryStem, or budgeting it into the proposal somewhere, because you are paying for someone to take that workload off of you. It's not free, and it is a service that your client is getting through your company. So it's really important that you actually make sure that that is allocated within that proposal, or whatever job that you're working on. It shouldn't just be included free, because nothing is free in this life. It needs to be in there, whether you add an extra £30 onto your bridal bouquet, because generally no one takes a bridal bouquet off a proposal, or add it into the delivery setup and collection fee. It needs to be in there somewhere, so that you're not giving your services for free.
Yes, I totally agree with that. And I've had a lot of people talk about, the cost of shipping, the cost of admin, the cost of all these things. Those should be included in our pricing. And so when we're figuring out what we're charging to our clients, all those costs need to be included. And recently, Rebecca and I actually did a video together about how you can look at some of your labor costs and use EveryStem in a really unconventional way to kind of figure out some of those things. So if anybody's interested in watching that video, it's on our YouTube channel, and I can send it to you. Shoot me an email at LuAnn@everystem.com if you're interested in seeing that. But there are so many different ways to kind of really make sure that you are adding those admin costs and those, shipping costs, anything that you're not really, just because a flower costs $1 doesn't mean we should charge the client exactly $3 for that flower. There are other things. We have to wrap it. We have to put a tissue around it. We have to ribbon it. We have to take the order for it, et cetera, et cetera. And so if you're having a hard time wrapping your mind around how you can actually do that, and how to find the value in what you're selling your client and making sure that you're pricing high enough, I have a separate video with Kathleen of Little Bird Bloom all about establishing the value you bring to your clients before you even meet with them. And that's on our YouTube channel as well. That's really important, because if we as a business owner don't see the value, then how are we going to delegate to other people and make sure we're charging enough to cover all those costs? Right? We need to start from the fundamental basics of having that abundant money mindset, knowing that the value we're bringing just for one stem of a flower, even though they could get it at Trader Joe's or the grocery store for $2, if we're charging $5 for it, we have to know why we're doing that. We have to feel confident in that. Otherwise, around us, no one is going to do that. Delegating is going to be very, very difficult. So kind of understanding that mindset, getting your mind right around what you're charging. And EveryStem can help you with that. I mean, I'm going to harp on EveryStem. I created it. I know we have really dedicated members that love it because it shows you in black and white. Do not charge less than X for this recipe, because you've established as the CEO of your business that you want to start with a 4 times markup, or you want to start with a 3 times markup. That's the basis. Then you need to add your fees. Then you need to add everything else, make sure your costs are covered. And in order to do that, if you're not using a system and you're not really setting that up with a mindset of saying, I'm going to be confident in my pricing, it can be very hard for other people who are working for you to kind of find that. Do you think that's true, Rachel? Do you find it's harder to support people who aren't confident and feeling the right level of authority in their business when it comes to those things?
Yeah, I there are some of my clients who are definitely getting better at it. But I think there is this thing where you forget certain things that you should be including that you don't necessarily include, or you undervalue your services or your time. I think that's a real big one within the industry. So yeah, I think sometimes when you ask someone to come in and take a fresh look at your business, there are definitely positives to that where you can see what they're missing out on. Because I mean, I love EveryStem because it gives you in black and white what your profit margin is. But if you are not then allocating everything and taking it out, you end up with a lot less than what you think you're actually going to get at the end of the day. So I think there are definitely some things that florists should be charging more for. Delivery, setup, and collection is one of those. But I definitely think within the last 6 months, there's been this switch here over in the UK about how much our flowers have gone up in cost this year. And I think there is a lot of confidence within our industry to know that we have to charge what we have to charge. Whereas I think last year or the year before, it was very much about putting the customer first. I think there is now this role reversal where people are putting their businesses first and themselves first to make a healthy profit, which is amazing to see. It's really, really good.
I agree with that. I think it's hard and it can be a rude awakening. I mean, when people first start with a new system like EveryStem or whatever it is that they're going to do to really try to look at the financial side of their business and say, okay, am I making smart financial decisions? Am I ordering too much product? Do I have 15 buckets of flowers left over after every event? Am I really saying I'm doing a 3 or a 4 or a 5 times markup? But when I actually look at the numbers, that's really not what's happening. I'm fooling myself. You know, the reality can be difficult because we want to make money. And I read something recently that I thought was really interesting by this author named James Clear. He wrote Atomic Habits, which is a very popular book here in the US. I don't know if you've heard of it, Rachel, but
Yeah.
he said, goals are great, but systems are what really matter. And he's got a whole article about this. I'll have to link it to the bottom of this when we put it on for a replay, but goals can get you started. They can give you the dream that you need to do. If you're an Olympian, you want to become an Olympian and win an Olympic gold medal. There might be a lot of people that have that goal, but there are going to be people who win the gold medal and there are going to be people who do not. And what is the difference? It's not that they both have that goal. We both want to win. Everybody wants to lose weight. Everybody wants to, be more fit. Everybody wants to make more money. The goal is not the issue. The issue is having the system and the practice and the dedication and the effort to getting where you want to go. So if you win a gold medal, you don't show up at the Olympics and do, the long jump and win a gold medal and then start practicing. You practice, you learn, you study, you can't win the Super Bowl if don't have a quarterback who's learning the plays. So you're not going to be able to do that. So I know these sports things are like sometimes foreign for us because we're floral designers. We're like, sports ball, what? But it's that mentality of if you want to become a great musician and play in a famous Philharmonic symphony orchestra, you don't just show up for the audition. You spend years dedicated to the craft. 10,000 hours makes someone an expert. And so putting in the time, putting in the effort, understanding what systems are going to work for you is really part of it. Starting a new system, hiring someone new and saying, I'm going to delegate this, but then not putting in your own effort to make that relationship work, to build a system that someone else can work from is really just a waste of your time. So, thinking about it from that perspective is saying, is this something that I really want? Not everyone needs to own their own business. Not everyone needs to go through that, and sometimes you realize, okay, maybe I want to work for someone else. Maybe this isn't my right fit. And that's okay too. You know, I've had so many floral designers who I've met through EveryStem all over the world, and there's a lot of change, and that's okay. You can do weddings sometimes, you can not do weddings. You can open a retail shop, you can close a retail shop. You can start a software company. I mean, I sold my business and started something totally different. So there's nothing wrong with saying, I need to make a change, and acknowledging whatever that change is. You know, you don't have to rush to a drastic decision, but knowing that there's lots of different opportunities out there and you don't have to stay stuck in the same spot, I think is really kind of just important to remind everyone. Like, if you're really unhappy and the delegation isn't working and the systems aren't working and you're putting in the effort, there's something there that's deeper that you have to kind of work through. And, you know, that can be different for everybody, but I think it's important to see that. And, you know, I'd love to hear what you think about that from your perspective and your experience, because you've known a lot of different people in the industry as well over the years.
Yeah, I think it's really hard for us to let go and know when to let go of something, whether, you know, it might be coming out of the floral industry or turning in a different direction or doing something different. Because we love what we do. We love flowers. And to do something different it's really difficult for us to do that. It takes a lot of courage to say, actually, I'm going to do this instead of that. But with change comes incredible possibilities, and really exciting ones. And sometimes you do need to take that leap of faith, to know that you're not in the right place and to change what you're doing. It's really good. It's the leap of faith.
Sometimes that's what we have to go by. That's right.
Yeah,
exactly. And I know we're getting on with almost an hour and 20 minutes, so I will start to wrap this up. If anybody else has any questions, unmute or pop them in the chat. But Rachel, tell us kind of any last thoughts, anything that you want to add to anybody that's watching this. What are your takeaways at the end here?
You are not alone. Like, no matter how picture perfect someone's Instagram is, how awesome their website is, how amazing their life looks, underneath it all, there is a person that is juggling more balls than you probably think they do. And nobody can do it all. Everyone needs support, whether it is from someone within their business, whether it's from their partner or their husband, a childminder, a school teacher. You know, we all need to lean on different people within different points of our lives to help us with certain situations. And I think it's really important to own it and to ask for help when you need it. Don't struggle along thinking it'll get better tomorrow or next week or next month or next year. Just be confident and ballsy and ask for help, because there is someone that is skilled to support you with whatever you are needing.
Yes, I love that. And Rebecca just wrote, Rachel is my superhero. So I love that. I think that having someone behind the scenes who's in your corner, who can really understand where you're coming from, is super helpful. And from my perspective as, you know, a small business owner starting a new kind of company, I love engaging with my members. I love talking to my members. I love helping them. I love working through problems with them. I'm not a coach. I don't charge, you know, I'm not doing hours and hours of time with people. But I love having someone you can kind of throw ideas to, and it helps me learn about what florists are thinking, what people are thinking about. I think of things one way, somebody else might think of an idea in a different way, and coming at solutions from different angles. People who have different mindsets, you know, can really create some unique things. I mean, I just love the way you and Rebecca worked together to kind of come up with some solutions when she felt like her some of her smaller events weren't making enough money. And then you guys got me involved and we talked about how can we use EveryStem to get to this solution and figuring out what does this labor cost us and being able to use a system that's flexible enough to be able to kind of change the way you use it and start to realize, okay, I need to charge more for some of these smaller events with further delivery times, maybe flips. And if we're doing, ceremony to reception, we call it a flip, whatever we want to call it. Anything that's going to add that additional cost of labor, figuring out what we need to charge the client to make sure we're going to make money on that. That takes a lot of guts to be able to say, I did this wedding. It was great, but I don't think I made as much money as I would have liked to have made. How can I figure out how to improve for the next time? That just having the guts to look at it that way is amazing. So Rebecca, you're my superhero because I think you're awesome for just taking the time and the honesty in your business to be able to look at that in a different way is amazing. And the fact that Rachel's helping you figure that out is awesome. But I think overall, we just need to kind of think about how we can make these decisions, how we can find the right people to help us figure it out, and how everyone can support us. And Gina just shared a new book that she recently read. Oh, by Dan Martell. Okay, I know who Dan Martell is, Gina. I've heard of him. He actually is in kind of like my software world of things. So I've heard of him before. She says the book name is Put Back Your Time. And she just finished it.
Buy back your time.
Yeah, buy back your time. Oh, okay. Yeah. Buy back your time.
Yeah, it was a really good. I listen Audible, so because we're doing things constantly, so Audible is like amazing. But yeah, just a recent slap in the face. It's like I've spent so many years just doing everything myself, and there are certain things that I just can't even touch, like not even with a 10-foot pole. Like I've been meaning to get newsletters out, and like I know how important like email marketing is, and just things that I'm like, God, if I could have somebody do that, like, wow. I mean, like that would probably improve my incoming leads. They would probably, I would have way more inquiries coming in, and it's just things like that, like the little things that you can even like. Okay, so maybe you don't like meal prepping, like find somebody to do that, like. That's what this whole thing is about. Like, we just need to start figuring out how to get other people involved and helping, and what you can have them do, what they love doing. I mean, other people love doing those things. So,
yeah, I absolutely love that. I'm going to get that book today. I'm really interested in reading that because just for myself, I recently hired someone. Hey, Lulu, her name is Executive Lulu, and she's doing a whole Pinterest thing for me.
Good.
And I'm really excited about it. And I'm really happy that I don't have to be the one doing it. Like I set up a lot of stuff for her. She's doing it and I love it. And she specializes in that and she knows what she's doing. She's much more experienced with Pinterest than I am. And I would have done it differently. But you know what? She knows more than I do. So I'm going to let her run with it, And I think it's super important that, yeah, our lives do tend to mesh together as small business owners. We were talking about this earlier. And like when you just mentioned the meal prepping, like I hate going to the grocery store. Why do I need to spend an hour and a half fighting through the line at the grocery store when, I could do the curbside? If that's as easy as a delegation, let somebody else do your grocery shopping, delegate that. That's delegation right there in your own personal life.
Like, she's like, how can you not go to a supermarket and do your own shopping? I'm like, it's really easy. You click a button and it comes to you.
And I love that. And I did it a little bit during COVID. And then I'm saying, I got all these things I got to be doing. I could be doing this. I could be doing that. And then the whole time I'm going through the grocery store, I'm rushing. I'm pushing people out of the way.
Yep. And then you forget 5 things anyway.
Exactly. And when I could just reorder the same order I ordered last week by literally clicking the one button that Rachel mentioned. And, I do enjoy cooking. So I'm happy to do that. But if you don't like to cook, like Gina said, pay somebody else to make the meal prep for you. It's so easy, even having someone who's a house cleaner,
Yeah.
my friend I was just talking to, she's an executive at Dell. She's got a lot of responsibility. And she actually talked to me a little bit about this call, talking about what she does for delegation in her day to day. She has a lot of direct reports, and she has a lot of mentee people who she coaches. And she said, you know, the best thing I ever did was get a house cleaner, somebody to come into my house. I don't want to clean my toilet. I don't want to mop my floor. And I get those 2 hours every Saturday to spend with my son instead of cleaning my house. She's like, that to me is so worth it, you know? And so whatever it is, it doesn't necessarily have to be in the business, you know, it can be something that alleviates our time so that we can then, you know, do whatever it is. You could be playing with your kids instead of, you know, cooking or cleaning or whatever. And that can be even just a recharge hour of relaxation. So let me see, there's one more thing from Jerry Lynn. She said, I'd sell my car and all my designer handbags before I got rid of my house cleaner. I love that, Jerry Lynn. That's right. Well, on that note, I think this has been so helpful for me. I'm going through the same thing. I'm trying to figure out how to delegate too. And I think if anybody has any great points or anything like that, shoot it over to me. I'll share it with the group. And Rachel, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Gina, Jerry Lynn, Rebecca, and everybody who joined, thank you so much. And Rachel, how can everyone get in touch with you if they're interested in working with you or have any questions for you?
So I'm on Instagram and Facebook, which is at the Botanic Business Hub, and you can message me on there, or you can pop over to my website, which is thebotanicbusinesshub.com, and there's more information on there as well.
Awesome. And if anybody needs to reach out to me, at EveryStem_ on Instagram, and you can go to EveryStem.com. You can email me at LuAnn at EveryStem.com. And I hope everybody has a great day. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a great day, guys.